Thank you so much for tuning in this week. And just as a quick reminder, to help us out, if you would leave a comment or a rate, don't forget to share. Without further ado, I just want to say to our guest, Coach Peal, who's on our show for the first time today. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on. How are you doing, Coach?
Doing well. Excited to be on Ándale.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we're excited to have you on here and everything. And so, I without just kind of jumping right into it because we want to know more about you and everything. And so, I was wondering, like, could you tell us like how you got involved in running? Is it something that's always been a part of your life? How did that come to be? And then maybe just transitioning a little bit into like how did you get into coaching for running?
Okay, definitely. I started running in seventh grade, running seventh grade and eighth grade track. And then I decided I was going to continue to run track in high school. At the time, we didn't have a cross country program probably until my sophomore or junior year of high school. So my freshman year, most of the year I was a sprinter and I wasn't very good. So
Okay.
about halfway through the season, I went to our head coach, Coach Walters, and I'm like, Coach, these sprint events are just a waste of your time. They're a waste of my time. Let me run distance. And, we have a dual meet coming up next week. How about I run the 2 mile? I mean, who in their right mind asks A, to quit sprints and join distance, and B, to run the longest event possible? So,
Right.
Coach Walters and Coach Newell, who I teach with now, they love this story of my first 2 mile. It was in the rain in Mascuda,
Hmm.
pouring. The meet got canceled like right after the 2 mile. So it was like go figure. But it's definitely memorable. So after that, the rest of the season I ran distance, and then it was really my sophomore year with a couple of my teammates that I really started taking the sport serious. But I didn't start running cross country until my junior year. I wish I would have ran my sophomore year. That's my one regret in high school. I ran my junior and senior year, both track and cross country. And to be honest, in terms of way before pre-trackflation, I still wasn't very fast. My high my high school PR was 18:09. Um,
Okay.
so now I'm like still in my 30s. I'm a sub 17-minute 5K guy, so I've progressed a ton. But
Yeah.
it's a story definitely for runners of all ages that high school doesn't have to be the fastest time of like your career. Even if you don't run in college, like you can still progress in the sport afterwards. I ran collegiately at Lindenwood University, Belleville. The Belleville campus is now closed, but that was an NAIA school that I ran
Okay.
at. And then I think my senior year of high school, I decided I wanted to go into education, and I had a pretty good idea that I wanted to coach cross country and track, and just being around the sport at the college
Okay.
level, like really solidified that was my career path.
Yeah. So, so you started in middle school. So it was that something that like you just kind of decided out of the blue, or was that a coach that came to you and was like, "Hey, try this," or family member, or how did you zero in on track?
It was just something different, something I hadn't
Okay.
done before sport wise, and a lot of my friends in school were doing it as well. So it was like, I even in PE, like I kind of like running, and it's fun to be around. So I'll give it a try.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. Because of course everybody has their own stories on how to get into running or family member or 5Ks or whatever the case may be. So it's awesome to be able to hear, hey, I decided to go do it. And it sounds like that's what you did. And so with that, running in college, how was that experience for you? How that jump from running in high school to now you're running in college?
Oh yeah, it was a little bit of everything. I tell my seniors every year before they go off to college, I'm like going from the 5K to the 8K, or if you're going Division two, Division one, uh, a 10K is no joke. Like, we train at a pretty high level at CM, but it's definitely going to be a big adjustment for you. Just be prepared for a meet or two your freshman year where you go through the 5K or the 3 mile split and pretty close to your high school PR, and then you still have another 2 to 3K to race. So I'm just prepping you for that now. But it was fun. It was a good transition. I found that I feel like I adapted to higher mileage a little bit better than what I would have anticipated, just knowing how low of mileage I typically ran in high
Hmm.
school. But I loved it. Loved all the experiences, all the teammates I had, and I learned from a lot of different coaches. I had 4 different coaches in my 4 years of college, so I learned a lot just in terms of training philosophy.
Okay. So, and so that leads us right into, because I was wondering as far as your coaching philosophy, like what would you say that's like for you, and like if there's anybody in college right now as a coach or professionally that you draw from, who would that be?
I would say in terms of the coaches that I ran under, like just in terms of how to relate with athletes, that I learned that from my high school coach, Clint Walters. But in terms of just training and everything like that, would definitely be my college coach, Chris Sandiford. He and I still talk about at least once a month about training and whatnot, like what's working for me, what's working for him, and maybe just a little bit about different news from the sport. But in terms of
Hmm.
how I adapt training right now to what we're doing at CM, I'd say my biggest influences in terms of like collegiate or post collegiate, and just would definitely be Marius Bakken in the Norwegian model, Mike Smith, formerly of NAU and now at Nike Swoosh TC. Last summer, I went to the Flagstaff All Star Clinic with a couple of my coaching friends, uh, Larry Huffman from Waterloo, his assistant Evan Rathgib, and then my friend Jamin Helton, who coaches at collegiate school, Lindsey Wilson in Kentucky. Like we learned a lot about just threshold training from Coach Smith, Mr. Bakken, Greg McMillan, and Ben Rosario, and that was definitely some of the biggest takeaways of how I kind of adapt to what we're currently doing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's awesome. I remember, we had Max Weber who won 2A cross country last year. And he talked a little bit about his training and how there was a little bit of nervousness going to, I believe it was like double threshold. Is that right? First of all, like what about that? What made you nervous about that at first?
It's just a big jump. I mean, I would say even Max's junior year, we were doing a lot more threshold work probably than any other year. Like I've really like focused on it in terms of just coaching and things like that. But
Hmm.
just thinking about doing 2 threshold workouts in one day, specifically with like high school boys who are already running pretty high mileage, in terms of like a development standpoint, and just thinking about, okay, forget the training for just a second, but what are they doing in the 22 hours that they like aren't at practice? Like, are they getting enough fluids, and are they, eating enough carbs and protein to be able to make sure that their body's going to be ready to go from one workout to the other? Are they getting enough sleep? How's their stress? Like, did they have a math calculus like class that they had to stay up for the night before? So it was nice that we were able to kind of start doing that some of that stuff in the summer when kids are kids, they're going to stay up
Right.
late and do that sort of stuff, but you have some time to kind of tweak, and you can almost like treat the summers as okay, like if even if you have a job, we can work around it, but the summer is a perfect time to train like a collegiate or professional athlete because you have all the time in the world. So just you know navigating that and then seeing how well they adapted early in July when we started doing it is like, if we're going to do something, we're going to go all in on it.
Sure.
So it was like, all right, if we did this in July, we're going to continue to do this throughout the entirety of the fall. And it was definitely a big commitment for everybody involved. Some of our double threshold sessions, our morning session was at 5:30 in the morning because we start school at 7:30, and then they were right back out at 3 o'clock getting ready for the second session of the day. So it's a big commitment, not just in terms of just putting in the training, but making sure that you're doing everything right in the hours that you're not at practice to make sure that your body can absorb the training and do it the right way.
So what was the linchpin that said, okay, we're gonna go ahead and do this? Like what made you feel comfortable enough to go ahead and say, all right, we're gonna implement this with Max?
It was really funny. I spent probably the year or two before that, just thinking about why I wouldn't do it or like why I would never adapt to that. And then, it was really funny. I was at the coaches clinic and I asked Mike Smith, I'm like, so you're saying that high schoolers shouldn't do double threshold? And his eyes got this big and he kind of frowned and in his best Mike Smith voice, oh, I didn't say that. It was more so like, I very much think that they can do double threshold and, even breaking it down to a lot smaller, more simple way. I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
I guess I didn't really think about it that way.
We have coaches that listen to this, and they are thinking or they're considering doing something like that. What would you tell them? Like, okay, take these things into consideration as you are
hmm
pondering this. What would that be?
I would definitely say, if you're pondering it, then I'm assuming you've already read or are reading Marius Bakken's Norwegian model. And if you haven't, if you're thinking about double threshold, don't do that until you read it. And then afterwards, just, make sure that you're, doing all your homework and just making sure that this fits your kid or your specific program. Because a lot of people think of like threshold training and it's a lot slower than what people realize. Like you would think, as fast as Max ran at the state meet that, we were pounding out a lot of workouts pretty close to race pace. And yeah, he was running quite a bit slower in terms of like workout effort. And we were just focused on, getting the volume in, making sure that we're recovering well enough in between reps. And, it's a lot of work. Like even if you don't have a lactate meter, which, I don't, but, who in their right mind is going to be like, as a high school kid, Mom, Dad, Coach was pricking my finger today at practice. I'm like, whoa, no, 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 no. Yeah, I can't be doing that. But you really just have to have a really good knowledge of what it should look like. Getting your athletes to know that slower sometimes is better.
Hmm.
And, don't, in the words of Tony Holler, like, don't ruin today to sacrifice tomorrow. So when
Yeah.
the kids maybe starting to fatigue or maybe start running too fast, like, don't be afraid to just call it.
What would be some things that you would look for in a student that you would say, okay, I think this student or these students are ready to do this.
Definitely, like if you're pivoting from track to cross country, like what did their track season look like? Are they able to handle more mileage this summer? And if so, could we get more out of like a training day by instead of maybe doing a double run where they're getting mileage in the morning and the afternoon? Could we maybe replace a double with a threshold workout? And just seeing how well they respond to that, and if they stay healthy, then that's definitely something to consider. And it's not just staying healthy like 1 week, but it's like,
Hmm.
okay, how was their track season? Was their mileage consistent? Even as it took a dip when we started doing more racing and less like training.
Hmm.
So how consistent were they in terms of their racing and things like that? And then what's their summer look like so far? Like typically I'm pretty slow in terms of we maybe start workouts like our third week of the summer. So typically just how's that progression week 3, week 4, week 5, and then maybe in July we can start looking at whether or not a kid's ready for something like that. Uh, so it's just a lot of like, you know, it's almost like it's earned, you know? You do
Okay.
what you're
Yeah.
supposed to, and you know, like you get to earn an extra workout or an extra run.
Right. Okay. So then how did you get the entire seven to buy into this into doing this sort of training?
It was definitely one of those things where it was like, well, if one of us is doing it, then we all want to do it.
Okay.
And so they were all excited to experiment with it in July. And I just remember, like, I was actually on vacation the first time that they did it,
Okay.
which I just remember them calling me that afternoon or that evening after their second session, just being so excited about like just saying that the fact that they did their first double threshold workout, and then I'm like, okay, so now I'm asking everyone all these questions, and I'm like, I have to be there for that next one. So then it was just like really just paying attention to not necessarily like the pace of the reps, but
Hmm.
just how well they were recovering in between. And it's
Hmm.
really just like a telltale of, you know, respiration, running economy, things like that. And we do most of our threshold sessions actually on the track in lane 8 counterclockwise.
Okay.
So, and I have like the 400 and all those splits like wheeled out and marked on the outside of our track. So even if you're using your Garmin, you can still like have an idea of the split, and it's really teaching them how to run by effort, not by pace.
Hmm.
Which threshold is an intensity. It's not necessarily a specific pace. So
Hmm.
like once they were able to kind of dial that in and learn and be like, you know, coach, we did our long run on Saturday, or we raced on Saturday, and I'm still feeling kind of crappy like today on Monday or Tuesday. Like I might need to go a little bit slower on this workout today. And I'm like, you know what? You're probably right. So just getting them to also like trust their body and like
Hmm.
know that, you know, if my threshold pace is my range is like 545 to 555, that's going to look a lot different for me than if you have the same paces, and you know, you might be having a better day than I do. It doesn't mean I have to stay with you, but it
Right.
means like we can still work together, run the workout together. You're just feeling better, and you know, so it's a lot of
Yeah.
trial and error, but it's also a lot of getting the athlete to take individual ownership into their training, and less about, you know, flexing on their teammates or trying to drop them in workouts, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So, the ownership. So, this might transition a little bit, but for you as a coach, um, how do you go about helping those student athletes learn to take ownership of, maybe their workouts, what they're doing outside of practice, to make sure they are recovering. Like, is
hmm
it something? How do you go about doing that with those students?
I would say I know when an athlete's like really serious
Mhm.
is when like after a workout they're already talking about you know, maybe not getting McDonald's afterwards, but just, you know, getting protein or getting a good snack in, or they're already, I have a pair of Normatec boots and I bring
Mhm.
them to school pretty much every school day, and just whether they're already asking me like, hey coach, you have a lunch. Can I come in during your lunch and use the boots before practice? Or we in school at 2 o'clock and practice starts at 3. Can I come in after school? And like, I couldn't tell you how many times I've had Max or Bowden Duffy or other kids like doing their homework while they're in the Normatec boots, just really trying to, you know, flush out the legs and really recover. So it's, you know, them kind of asking the right questions, or, you know, hearing them say the right things. And it's not just because, oh, coach is around, but it's because like they're living that out. And that's, you know,
Mhm.
it's important to them to, you know, take those other 22 hours just as serious. And sometimes another one of my athletes, Glenn Collins, like as the season gets later, he always talks about um, going to sleep as if it's a race with like his other teammates. He's like, I'm gonna go to sleep in the sevens today. For him, that's like 7:30. He's like,
Okay.
Like, bet you guys aren't going to beat me. So it's just silly stuff like that.
It's like how was that feeling for you as a coach to see one of your athletes win individually, the whole thing in 2A?
First he's like just kind of cultivating that mindset that, maybe not just going for a PR and an all-state medal is enough. Like, so then in his brain in June and July, he started thinking that, hey, I can win this. And then in August, when at the end of the month, when we opened up our season with our CM Twilight invite, and Max ran about a 20-second PR the first meet of the year. Like, I wasn't necessarily focused on times. Normally the end of August, even our evening meet can be kind of hot and humid. And
Hmm.
then, he goes and runs 14:28, and I'm like, okay, now we've said this enough. Now we have to practice what we preach, but we're going to seek and not show. Like, you were the you ran a really good time first meet of the season, but let's see how good we can be. Let's continue that journey to November, and not really worry about who ran 14:28 in August. Uh,
Right, right.
so as we kind of went through the season and we got closer to the state meet, I would definitely say for both of us, like, nerves were starting to get a little higher. But I Max is a different breed. Like, he deleted his social media like the week of like regionals or whatever, and he's just like, I'm just all locked in for the next 3 weeks. And I just made sure that anytime that he and I had a conversation about regionals, about sectionals, about state, that it was, not, hey, you need to run XYZ time. It's like, you have really good competitors that you're going to be running against, whether that be Liam Bettis, the Greers, Quade Berger, at sectionals. Like, those guys are going to prep you for the state meet. I think 4 of the top 8 guys were all from our sectional, which is pretty crazy when you really think about
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
So just getting prepped, using all of those races to get ready for the state final. It gave him a lot of confidence for sure. And
Hmm.
he just, it was just getting him ready for every scenario possible for the state meet. Like, let's just say it would have been slow and tactical, we were going to be ready. If it got out fast the way it did at the state meet, like, we planned for it. It could have been raining and we would have been ready. Like, just visualization, just talking about different scenarios, because you and I both know that you can prep your athletes the best that you can, but as soon as the gun goes off, like, those next 3 miles are completely up to them. And,
Right.
it's not just about how well you prep them, but it's also like how well they prep themselves for this scenario, that scenario. Like, Quade Berger making a huge move in the triangle that second mile. Like, a lot of people can panic and start to reel him in, and Max just tried to be like incognito those first 2 miles. It was, you know cruise. We were going to get out hard. We were going to get in that lead pack. Mile 2, we're going to cover any moves made by anybody in that lead pack, and then that third mile, whenever we got to our go zone, we were going to close. And
Yeah.
we just talked about the race enough that, as good as everyone else was, I felt like you could have ran that race 10 times, and 9 out of 10 times Max won, because he was just that prepared and that locked in.
Mhm. So I'm wondering, as a coach for you, what would you say is the most important thing for you for the student athlete to prepare? Like, is it mentally? Is it physically? I mean, I mean, all of it's important, but what's the one thing you would say? Okay, this is something that is really important that we need to work on.
I
That's
would
important to
definitely,
me.
yeah, I would definitely say probably more so the mental aspect, because,
Mm.
we're training to prepare every day, like, physically.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, you can be in just as good shape as another kid, but if you're not as mentally prepared for the pain of the race pace or just the moves that other people make in races, like if you're not prepared for every different situation, if you're not prepared to endure that pain, if you're not prepared to make a move because you've built that confidence, then your physical fitness can only get you so far.
And so, for you, as you prepare to go into this cross country season, what are you excited for? How are you looking at it's your team's approach there at Civic Memorial? And I mean, because two A is incredibly stacked. I mean,
Yeah.
there are a lot of guys that can run that have run really well and are returning this year. So for you, what are you telling your team as you prepare for the season?
As we kind of head into the season tomorrow, big thing I'm really just excited about and really thinking about is, we had four seniors we graduated from last year, from our top seven, not just Max, but Tulio Zampiri and the Cranfords as well. That, this is a year that I really just want to see like all the boys and the girls, just really just focus on team culture, just ownership of not just like their own running, but holding their teammates accountable, and whatnot. Like we have high expectations and like we want to see our kids do, like Coach Hannaford and I want to see our athletes like succeed as well as possible, but you don't get that success unless you don't buy into, having your teammate right next to you in a workout or a race is just as important because you guys can push each other. So really just getting this new batch to buy into practicing what we preach day in day out, holding each other accountable, being good teammates, being good friends outside of practice, and we're just it's going to be a different year,
Yeah.
um, but we're excited about just almost getting ready to just pivot and just restart like with a blank slate.
You have those students for a certain amount of time. So in this case, of course, 4 years. So every year, either you're losing one or a few of those students, and so you're like retooling.
Mhm.
Either with some students coming back and you're adding new students and everything. Is that something that excites you, or is that something that like you get nervous and antsy about?
Both,
Both.
definitely both.
Okay.
When you see the like incoming freshmen coming in and you're excited to get to spend time with them for the next 4 years and help them grow as students and grow as athletes and see how good they can get. uh
Yeah.
it's really hard to let go of those seniors because you build really good bonds with them and you're really excited about what they're going to do after high school even if they aren't running in college. But you get like really sad that they're gone.
Yeah. But like you said, it's more like that bonding and that relationships that were created over the course of a few years. And you're like now, okay, like you're moving on to your next stage of life, and everything, which, is bittersweet, and everything. So what would you tell a parent, right, if they have a freshman coming into your program, and they were a standout middle schooler, like I mean, they were a really standout middle schooler, and they're coming into your program, and the parents have expectations that like their child is going to be the superstar as soon as the first meet of the season.
Hmm.
So what would you tell that parent about the season that's coming up?
Yeah, so definitely one question I would ask both my that athlete or just my athletes in general and their parents is just a simple question. Does your level of expectation meet your level of preparation? And if not, which of the two do you need to change? Do you need to change your expectations or do you need to change what you're doing to prepare for race one or the last race? But for me, whether it be a kid running at our conference meet, whether that be my varsity team that's going into the state series, my big question is, or my big goal is, we're racing to run our best in October and November. And when you think about how cross country is, it's not track. It's not
Right.
you're not running. I mean, life and running isn't linear, but you're not running the same course. Different courses have different footing. You're fighting different elements and things like that. It's like your kid may not PR every meet, but that's okay. Like if we're
Hmm.
PRing every meet, the question becomes like, are we working hard enough in practice? Or,
Right.
like what what is that kid doing that sets them apart from everyone else? And, sometimes, freshmen, they get to PR the first couple of meets because it's their first 3 mile. And then,
Right.
the next meet for us might be a faster, flatter course, so of course, you're throwing in some like less obstacles to, set them up for success, but that doesn't necessarily mean like when you're in that rut in September, October, that just because you're not getting faster doesn't mean you're not doing all the right things in training. Maybe you've been struggling with the workload of academics, you're up later like studying because you're in honors classes, or maybe you've got a job you're balancing with school and practice as well. Like we have to remember that all these athletes aren't robots. Like they have real life things that they're doing outside of practice. But to kind of go back to answer that question, it's like we want to run our best in November and we want to
Hmm.
take like steps to get there. You can't skip a step. And
Hmm.
with freshmen, even if they are very, very talented, it's like I want this kid to be really good and still love running in 4 years when they're a senior, so that if they want to go on and run in college or continue to run afterwards, like they still have a love of that sport. Like, I'm not going to bring a freshman in and run 60 to 70 miles a week. That's insane.
All
You know,
right.
they're growing and developing in terms of like their ligaments, their tendons. No, there's no perfect mileage for any athlete, but we have to take them where they're at, and hope that when we're done with them, that we left that athlete mentally, physically, spiritually in a better place than when we started.
You take a freshman who's been in your program for 4 years. At the end of those 4 years, what are you hoping that that student takes away from your program?
I definitely hope that they had a great experience. They made lifelong friends that they're going to continue to communicate with afterwards, whether that be in college or just life in general, that they think fondly about their experience. I hope they learned a lot about themselves, that, anytime that they were put in a position where, running was tough, whether it was a tough course, it was really hot out or whatever, that they have the skill set available to them, that regardless of what tough season of life that they're in, that they
Hmm.
realize like I've been through tough things, I can do hard things, that they develop that mindset and that work ethic that they can get through anything that life throws at them because of what they did in the cross country or track experience. And I hope they also know that if they ever need anything, that I don't want to just be their coach for 4 years, but if they need a job, a resume, like letter of recommendation, or if they just are in college and they're struggling with the transition to running or whatever, like that I'm still there for them and I still want to be in their corner.
Two things. First is from our conversation today, like what do you hope is the one thing that people take away from listening from our conversation today?
I hope that people like can learn that they are capable of like way more than they ever imagined. I was an 1809 high school 3 miler. Um, I ran 2:30:58 the Boston Marathon in 2022. Like that's way faster than my high school race PR. Um, you know, if you stick with the process, the outcome will take care of itself.
Hmm.
So if you
Yeah.
stick with what you're doing to make yourself better and you just are consistent, you show up every day, even when you don't want to, like you will achieve good things. Our high school, one of our mottos is "Pound the Stone."
Hmm.
It's a book by Joshua Metcalf, and it talks about how, when you have a stone in front of you, like, and you hammer it, it's not going to break the first time or even the
Hmm.
second time. It might even take the 133rd time. But if you were
Hmm.
consistent day in, day out, you worked hard to get better, you showed up, you did what it took, like, eventually that outcome will come, that stone will break. So be consistent every day, work hard, show up, give it all you got, and dig a little deeper because it's right there.
Yeah. Well, awesome. And thank you for sharing that. I think there's a lot of good things in there and everything. And so, like I said, thank you for sharing that. And so, kind of switching gears again, just real quick, just so that way people can know you a little bit more and everything. I just got a couple of questions, just some fun questions, and you can just answer whatever comes to the top of your mind, and we'll kind of go from there. So, um, if you're on a Sunday drive or you're just kind of out, just kind of cruising, what is playing on your on the radio or through the speakers? What song or what artist or whatever? What's playing?
Probably Thomas Rhett with my wife.
And somebody says we got to get some desserts or something to snack on. What is it that you're going to?
Well, first off, shout out to Matt Zampiri. My wife and I got a Ninja Creamy from him and his wife Alexa for our
Okay,
wedding last month, and
yeah.
we make protein ice cream. So today I made 3 batches of vanilla, like banana cream, protein ice cream that we're going to be excited to eat tomorrow. So protein ice cream is definitely our go-to. I had a Reese's protein ice cream earlier, like right before coming on the pod.
Lastly, is again at the end of the day, you've had a long day or maybe a weekend. You're gonna go to see a movie, whether you've already seen it before or you want to see a particular movie that's out now. What are you watching?
I guess movie I wanted to see this summer and I haven't seen yet. I want to see the Odyssey.
Okay, okay. What would you rather do, either cross country or track?
I feel like this is a controversial question. There's so many athletes that are like, I'm a cross country guy, I'm a track
Right.
guy. But I always say that, I'm most excited about the season that I'm in.
Hey, we all have our preferences, so awesome. Well, Coach, I want to say thank you so much for taking some time and being on a podcast with us today. I really do appreciate it. And for everybody who's listening, thank you for joining us in this conversation. And Coach, I don't want to forget one thing. You have started a like a coaching kind of service. Is that right?
Yes, started in
Okay.
June.
That's all right. So then, where could people possibly check this out, or get some information about that?
So I started Peel Pace Track Club in June. You can find more information on my website, whether you're interested in, being an adult training for a half or a full, or whether you're a high school athlete who needs more like structured guidance in your off season. I'd be excited to work with you. Just check out my website, fill out the form at peelpacetc.com, and
Okay, awesome. And you also have an Instagram account for my right. Okay, awesome. So
mhm.
you can look that up there too on Instagram if you do that a lot. So with that being said. Again, guys, thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. If you can, or if you would be willing to share this with your friends and family, we would love to get this out to as many people as we can. And whatever you're doing this week, we hope you're doing it with excellence and with the best of your ability. And as you're doing that, please know there are people who are cheering you on. I'm one of those guys, and you'll hear me say, Ándale. So you guys have a good one, and we will talk to you later.